Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm going to be talking about the finale of Euphoria on HBO. So, like I've been saying in the past few reviews, this show has really grown on me. It's become one of my favorite shows on television, and I think that this was a really excellent finale. There's a lot to break down in this episode, so this may be a little bit longer of a video. I wanted to take a couple days or a day longer to film it. So yeah, there's some really good moments and really great character arcs and endings and beginnings and just twists and so much going on. There's always so many things happening on this series, and I think this episode did a great job of really taking every character and giving them a satisfying moment for this finale. Rue especially shines in this episode. She's obviously been the focal point of this series so far. In the beginning, when she's talking about her being in the hospital, I never really thought about people that are constantly in the hospital or constantly going back to rehab, why they would ever want to do that, why they would ever feel caught in that loop, and you kind of understand where they come from in this episode. You're seeing how being in a hospital or being in rehab is a comfort. You feel like you're in a safe place, a safe space where you can't hurt yourself. Self-destructive people, it's kind of a safe haven for them. And I never really thought about it. And I thought that was an interesting way that you see Rue being happy and being comfortable, because that's something with the character she always struggles with this manic depression, is that when she has these lows, then she feels like she has no help and no support. It's crushing and horrible, and she falls back into these habits. When she feels comforted and supported like she does at a hospital or with Jules at any time, she's able to be her full, vibrant, happy self. And there's that performances from Zendaya throughout this whole series, and definitely in this episode in particular, have been excellent. You also see a bit of Rue's jealousy coming out, seeing that Jules has found another person that maybe she connects with more, someone that is more in her space, more in her lifestyle, and seeing Rue struggle with that, trying to just change who she is. Kind of in the beginning, you're seeing Jules, put makeup on her and make her dress differently than what she's used to. And you're seeing her wanting to make people happy. That's something that's been really consistent with Rue in this series, is that she wants to make the people that she cares about happy, and she really struggles with that. Because sometimes she's doing things she doesn't necessarily want to do. And just, this was another example of that character just having such a deep need to comfort and be just really support the people in her life that care for her, and it was really powerful, especially those moments. Another thing this episode did that I actually didn't love when the series first started was the fourth wall breaks, the moment where Rue turns and talks to the camera, and we get a kind of ridiculous daydream scenario, kind of an over-the-top thing. And this one you're seeing them kill Nate because she's just so done with him. She hates Nate Jacobs, and she's over it. And it works so well. I think that as the series has gone on, I've grown to understand where they're going to do it, and I think it's really helped with her character, because she has an issue expressing how she feels. She does have flashes and moments where she can say how she feels, but other times, they have to do this fourth wall break, where you're getting a really great example of what's going on in her inner workings of her mind, just the zaniness of how she's feeling in those manic episodes. And I thought this episode was another great example of that. Another thing that overarches this whole episode is Rue's mother giving a speech, and I thought that worked great with the episode. This episode has a thing where it's kind of bouncing back and forth between the main storyline and the current time at the prom party, and then bouncing back to people's past or events that were shortly before the prom. And I thought they handled it really well. I think for some people it may be a little jarring if you haven't been following the series really closely, or following this episode in particular really closely. You have to really pay attention, because it does jump back and forth without warning. But I think that was a really interesting episode structure, and it helped build the tension. And hearing her speech and where it was going, where it was building, I think helped it even more and created more emotional impact. Her words were very emotional, especially overarching these characters and what they're all dealing with. In particular, the moments where they're all getting ready for prom, you're kind of seeing how all the characters are struggling, how they all have their own personalities. You see Nate's very stoic. You see Jules and Rue kind of being playful with the other, being happy, and just seeing everything. And at the same time, you're seeing Fez getting ready to, go out there and risk his life because of what happened with him and Nate. I thought it's just great. The way they structured this episode in particular, I thought was really well done. And speaking of the prom, the show has done a good job of creating one setting, one singular scenario where all these characters come together, and you're seeing all their stories collide. And those are some of the most powerful moments in the show. You saw it with the carnival, you saw it with the Halloween party. I think that it creates a scenario and an atmosphere that is just a powder keg. And I think that's something that's really helped me draw into this series, really feel connected, is that all these characters on their own are very interesting. When you bring them together, you get some great interactions and some great character moments. And yeah, I think this was definitely no exception. Another thing that I think a lot of people are going to touch on is the parts of this episode that deal with abortion. And they do it in a very clinical way, and yet make it very, very powerful. You're kind of seeing how young girls that go through this, how they might be feeling. You're seeing her inner struggle with the situation going on. It's not like a willy-nilly thing. She's just going in there. they don't trivialize the event. They make it feel very impactful, and you can tell this is an event that may follow her for the rest of her life. And I like that they didn't shy away from it. I like that they kind of made you uncomfortable, because it isn't a comfortable topic to talk about. They didn't try to, sugarcoat it. They just really took it head on, and that may be hard for some people to watch, and that's completely understandable. But I think that the show handled it pretty well. Another really powerful moment was Rue's confrontation with Nate. Her going up to him and basically saying, "I will destroy your life. I don't care what I have to lose. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I only want to help the people that I care about." And him coming back to her and using his ability to just destroy people, manipulate them, and just kind of telling her, you care so much about Jules, but she's an exceptional human being and you're really unexceptional. And I think that hits her so hard, but then at the same time, it gives her the ability to come out a little bit more to Jules and tell her how she feels. So that was another really powerful moment in the episode. I also think Nate gave an excellent performance in this episode. I was waiting to see him explode, just having one of those insane moments, and you're seeing that with him and his father. That was some incredible acting, seeing him break down, seeing this very, very stoic character that tries his best never to show his cards, never to show his emotions, just losing it, seeing himself in the mirror with his father on top of him. Just, you can tell there are some lot of deep-seated issues there, some things that are going on with him beneath the surface, and those all bubbled to the surface right there in that single moment. And that was some really powerful stuff. Also seeing that Nate's inability to trust anyone other than himself, and they do that in a drive in a football game. You're seeing that, his receivers are letting him down. He's the only one who can step up and he can do the things he wants to do. And he's constantly being reassured by himself and other people that he's the only person he can trust. He's the only person that should be trusted or believed by anybody. And just the fact that, you're seeing that in this episode was interesting. You're seeing kind of why he is the way he is and why he thinks the way he thinks. And in some moments in this episode, since there's so many storylines going on at once, you get some really, really strong clashes of emotion. And I think they complemented each other in a way. You're seeing Nate breaking down, but dealing with his father. You're seeing Jules and Rue come together and finally kind of confessing their love to one another, just having these happy moments of them riding off into the sunset essentially together, and seeing these other things going on, and just all of it happening at once, along with the scenes that are dealing with the abortion. They're all commingled, and the fact that these really powerful moments are all hitting on every cylinder, I think worked really well. I think it could have, clashed really hardly and made it hard to focus and understand, but for me, I think it amplified everyone's situation that much more. There's also a small moment in this episode that I think could be lost if you don't really think about the context of it, and that's when you're seeing Fez attacking the doctor who's the drug supplier, and his kid comes out. And, that's obviously a bad thing. You're seeing a child seeing their father be attacked, but in many ways, you're seeing maybe the beginning story of someone who could be in a different situation, like the people in this series. You always have these callbacks in the beginning of the episodes that show the childhood of these people and how they ended up having these deep-seated issues. And this could be the beginning of that. And you're seeing how these people's lives are reflected on other people. At the end of the day, like I said, in another review, the show is mostly about connections, about how people interact with other people and how their actions can affect everyone on a deep level and you don't even realize it. And I think that is an example of it in particular with that scene with the kid. And obviously when you're seeing the end of the episode, you're getting some incredibly powerful emotional moments with Rue. She wants to make Jules happy. She wants nothing more than to make her happy, but then she doesn't want to disappoint her family, and her breaking down and not being able to get on the bus or the train to go with her to the city, and just, it's just so heartbreaking because you want these two characters to be together. You can tell that they really care about each other, but at the end of the day, Rue doesn't want to leave her family. They're the people that she's obviously cared about and tried to get better for, and, her deep-seated issues from when she was a child and her father died, and just everything about that, the flashes with the music and just everything works so perfectly, and you're seeing why she wears those sweaters and why she hides in those things, because it's her father's, and it's something that makes her feel comfortable in this world that, is really hard for her to deal with. It's something that she hides into. It's her shell. And the last scenes with all the cinematography and the dancing and just everything about it works so well. It's something I never knew I wanted in this episode, have almost a musical number at the end to complete it. It just, I give some applause to the creators of the show, because that is a very risky move. They've done a lot of risky things in this series, and I think they've all paid off really well in their own different ways. Alright, so that is my thoughts on the finale of this series. I feel like I could talk about this episode for hours. There's so many things to unpack. I actually just might watch it again because I feel like there's little things I missed, and I cannot wait for season 2. I'm so glad that it got picked up. I love the way that they ended it. They didn't try to wrap it up in a bow. Sometimes with these series that you don't know if they're going to get a season 2 or whatever, it just ends. Like, I felt like Big Little Lies did that. If you watch that, the first season ends and it could have just ended and they tacked on a little bit. This one feels like I'm invested. I want to know how these characters are going to live out their scenarios. I want to know what's going to happen with them, like Nate's father. I'm really intrigued and invested, and I cannot wait to see how these things play out. So what do you think is going to happen? What are your theories for season 2? How did you feel about season 1? Did you enjoy it as much as me? How do you think these characters are going to play out? How do you think that Nate's going to deal with his issues? How do you think that Jules and Rue, you think they're going to get together? I feel like there's some things going on with Lexi, and I'd really like to see her character fleshed out a little more. What do you guys think? Put it down in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.